Most people think fruit trees are only for homes with a big backyard. But one of the plants on today's list can produce real, full-sized peaches in a pot smaller than a trash can, and another can grow actual bananas right on a patio. If you have sunlight and a container, you can grow real fruit this year, no farm required. Today I'm counting down 10 fruits that grow easily in containers, starting with the most overlooked and building up to the ones that will genuinely surprise you. Stick around to the end, because number 1 on this list is the plant most people don't even believe can grow in a pot until they see it for themselves. Number 10. Dwarf Kumquat. We're starting the list with a fruit most people walk right past at the grocery store without knowing what it even is. The kumquat. Kumquats max out around 4 to 6 feet even at full maturity, making them one of the most compact true fruit trees that exists. A 10 to 15 gallon container with a citrus or palm soil blend is all it needs. Buy a grafted nursery tree, since kumquats are notoriously difficult to root from cuttings and almost always sold grafted onto sturdier citrus rootstock. Give it full sun and water whenever the top inch of soil feels dry, increasing frequency in hot weather. Feed monthly during spring and summer with a slow-release citrus fertilizer. The fruit ripens slowly, often taking the entire growing season, and is ready when the skin turns a deep, glossy orange and yields slightly to a gentle squeeze. The best part, you eat the entire fruit, peel and all, so simply pop it in your mouth or slice it into a salad for a sweet tart bite. Candy it in sugar syrup for an unforgettable holiday garnish. Here is a fascinating fact. Kumquats were reclassified out of the citrus genus entirely back in 1915, placed into their own genus, Fortunella, meaning botanically speaking, a kumquat is not technically a true citrus fruit at all. Number 9. Meyer Lemon's backstory might surprise you even more. Most people assume citrus trees need a Florida backyard, but this particular lemon was practically born for container life. Choose a sturdy 10 to 15 gallon pot with drainage holes, and always use a citrus-specific potting mix rather than regular garden soil, since citrus roots need sharp drainage to avoid rot. Buy a young grafted tree from a nursery rather than starting from seed, because grafted trees fruit years faster and stay true to the variety. Place it in the sunniest spot you have, ideally 6 to 8 hours of direct light a day, and let the top 2 inches of soil dry out between waterings. Feed it every 4 to 6 weeks during the growing season, with a balanced citrus fertilizer. You will know it is ready to harvest when the fruit turns fully yellow, with a faint orange blush, and gives slightly under gentle pressure. Twist the lemon gently until it releases from the branch, then use it in homemade lemonade, a sheet pan chicken marinade, or sliced thin over fish. The Meyer lemon was brought to the United States from China in 1908 by USDA plant explorer Frank Meyer, and modern genetic testing has shown it is actually a 3-way hybrid of citron, mandarin, and pomelo, not a simple lemon at all. Here is a fascinating fact. Nearly every Meyer lemon tree grown in the US today is a virus-free clone descended from a single tree, because the original imported plants were quietly destroyed in the 1940s after they were found to be silently spreading a citrus-killing virus. Number 8. Dwarf Everbearing Mulberry. Here's a fruit that almost nobody plants on purpose, and that's a mistake. The Dwarf Everbearing Mulberry stays a manageable 2 to 6 feet tall, a far cry from standard mulberry trees that grow into towering 30-foot giants, with roots aggressive enough to crack foundations. Use a 10 to 15 gallon container or fabric grow bag, which naturally restricts the roots and keeps the tree compact. Start with a young nursery plant, place it in full sun, and water deeply whenever the top inch of soil dries out, increasing frequency once fruiting begins. Feed every 4 weeks during the growing season with a balanced organic fertilizer. Unlike standard mulberries that fruit once a year, this dwarf variety produces continuous waves of berries from late spring well into fall. The berries are ready when they turn a deep, almost black purple and detach from the stem with the lightest tug. Eat them straight off the branch, fold them into pancake batter, or simmer them down into a rich homemade jam. Here is a fascinating fact. Mulberry leaves are the exclusive food source of the silkworm caterpillar, and without this single tree species, the entire global silk industry, a trade that has shaped fashion and commerce for over 4,000 years, would not exist. Number 7. Dwarf Pomegranate. Number 7 looks far too dramatic to be this low maintenance. The dwarf pomegranate tops out around 3 to 4 feet, a fraction of the 20-foot height full-size pomegranate trees can reach, and was bred specifically as an ornamental and fruiting container plant. A 5 to 10-gallon pot is enough, filled with a well-draining mix amended with sand or perlite, since pomegranates hate sitting in soggy soil. Plant a young nursery shrub in full sun, and let the soil dry out noticeably between waterings, since this plant evolved in arid, rocky terrain and resents constant moisture. Feed it once in early spring with a balanced organic fertilizer to fuel flowering. The fruit ripens in fall and is ready when the skin turns a deep red and develops a slightly leathery, almost squared-off shape. Cut or twist the fruit free, then break it open and pop out the ruby-red areoles for snacking, juicing, or scattering over a salad. Here is a fascinating fact. In ancient Greek mythology, the pomegranate was called the fruit of the dead, and the story of Persephone eating its seeds in the underworld was the ancient world's explanation for why winter exists every year. Number 6. Dwarf Fig. You're about to find out why the fig is the fruit tree most nurseries recommend to first-time growers. Varieties like Little Miss Figgy and Petite Negra were bred specifically to thrive in tight spaces, and figs actually fruit better when their roots are slightly restricted, which makes a pot the ideal home, not a compromise. A 5 to 10-gallon pot with regular well-draining potting soil is all it takes. Start from a young nursery plant or a hardwood cutting taken in early spring. Place it in full sun and let the soil dry out between waterings, since overwatering is the most common way people kill a fig. Feed lightly once a month during the growing season. The fruit is ready when it droops downward, softens to the touch, and the skin begins to split slightly at the base. Twist gently to harvest, then eat them fresh. Halve and broil them with a little honey, or wrap them in prosciutto for an easy appetizer. Here is a fascinating fact. A fig is not technically a fruit in the traditional sense at all. It is an inverted flower, with hundreds of tiny blossoms growing inward and blooming completely hidden inside what we eat. Before we get into the top 5, which one of these has surprised you the most so far? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know. And if this list is already changing how you think about your patio, go ahead and hit subscribe so the next video lands in front of you. Now, let's get into the fruits everyone actually asks me about. Number 5. Dwarf Raspberries. Up next is a fruit most gardeners assume needs a sprawling bramble patch, but it doesn't anymore. Compact, thornless patio raspberry varieties stay neatly contained in pots while still producing a full-size harvest, a huge departure from traditional canes that spread aggressively and take over entire garden beds. A 10 to 15-gallon container with rich, well-draining soil gives the roots enough room to establish. Plant a young nursery cane in early spring, place it in full sun to light afternoon shade in hotter climates, and water consistently, never letting the root zone fully dry out during fruiting. Feed every 4 weeks during the growing season with a balanced organic fertilizer. Depending on the variety, you may get one summer flush, or, with Everbearing types, a second smaller harvest in fall. The berries are ready when they turn fully red and pull free from the central core with zero resistance. If it resists at all, it is not ripe yet. Eat them fresh, freeze them for smoothies, or cook them down into a quick raspberry sauce for desserts. Here is a fascinating fact. A raspberry is not actually a true berry. Each one is a cluster of dozens of tiny individual fruits called drupelets, which is exactly why the center pulls out clean when you pick one. Number 4. Dwarf Everbearing Strawberries. If you've never grown a single piece of fruit in your life, this is where you start. The strawberry is the most universally recognized container fruit there is, and for good reason. It thrives in shallow pots, hanging baskets, or even repurposed gutters mounted on a fence. A pot at least 12 inches wide and 8 inches deep works well, filled with a light, well-draining potting mix. Buy bare root crowns or small starter plants rather than seed, since seed-grown strawberries are slow and unpredictable. Choose an everbearing or day-neutral variety if you want multiple harvests through the season instead of just one big spring flush. Give them 6 or more hours of sun. Keep the soil consistently moist but never soggy, and feed every 2 to 3 weeks with a balanced liquid fertilizer once flowering begins. You will get your first ripe berries in as little as 4 to 6 weeks from a healthy starter plant. Harvest when the berry is fully red with no white shoulders, and pick by snapping the stem rather than pulling the fruit itself. Eat them fresh, Slice them over yogurt or simmer a quick batch of jam. Here is a fascinating fact. A strawberry is not actually a berry at all. Botanically speaking, what you are eating is a swollen flower stem, and the real fruits are the hundreds of tiny yellow specks on the outside, each one containing its own seed. Number 3. Dwarf Blueberries. Number 3 flips a common assumption upside down. This fruit is actually easier in a pot than in the ground. It requires very acidic soil, something most backyard dirt simply does not have, which makes a container the easier path to success, not a limitation. Use a 5-gallon or larger container, but fill it with a specialized acidic mix made for azaleas and blueberries, since regular potting soil will not hold the low pH these roots demand. Buy a 1 to 2-year-old nursery plant in a compact variety bred for pots. Place it in full sun, tap water consistently with rainwater if possible, since tap water can slowly raise soil pH over time, and feed twice during the growing season with an acid-loving plant fertilizer. The berries are ripe when they turn fully blue with a light dusty coating, and release from the stem with a gentle roll of your fingers, not a tug. Eat them by the handful, bake them into muffins, or freeze a batch for smoothies all winter. Here is a fascinating fact. Blueberries are one of only a small handful of fruits that are true berries in the strict botanical sense. Alongside grapes and bananas, while many of the fruits we casually call berries, like strawberries and raspberries, actually are not. Number 2. Dwarf Genetic Peach. Number 2 is the one that makes people stop scrolling. This is not a regular peach tree pruned down to size. It's a naturally compact genetic mutation that tops out around 4 to 6 feet while still producing full-sized, full-flavored peaches, real ones, off a tree small enough to fit beside a doorway. Choose a 20 to 25-gallon container, since this is the largest pot on our list, and fill it with a well-draining mix amended with compost. Buy a bare root or potted dwarf variety from a nursery in late winter or early spring, and choose a self-fertile variety so you only need one tree to get fruit. Place it in the sunniest spot available. Water deeply and consistently during fruit set, since a sudden dry spell can cause the tree to drop unripe fruit, and feed in early spring with a slow-release fruit tree fertilizer. The peaches are ready in mid to late summer when the green background color fully fades to gold or red, and the fruit gives gently under light thumb pressure. Twist to harvest, then slice them fresh over ice cream. Grill them for a smoky dessert, or bake them into a classic peach cobbler. Here is a fascinating fact. A peach and a nectarine are genetically almost identical. The entire difference between a fuzzy peach and a smooth nectarine comes down to a single gene that controls whether the skin grows fine hairs. Number 1. Dwarf Cavendish banana. And the plant most people refuse to believe until they see it with their own eyes. The dwarf Cavendish banana. Most people think growing bananas requires the tropics. In reality, the world's most popular banana variety grows surprisingly well in a container, right on an ordinary backyard patio. While a standard banana plant can soar past 20 feet, the dwarf Cavendish stops at a manageable 6 to 8 feet, making it the most dramatic, tropical-looking plant on this entire list. You will need a large 15 to 20-gallon container with excellent drainage, filled with a rich, slightly acidic potting mix heavy on organic compost. Buy a live, rooted sucker or pup from a nursery rather than attempting to grow from seed, since commercial bananas are sterile clones and do not produce viable seeds at all. Give it the hottest, sunniest spot you have. Water deeply and frequently during the growing season since bananas are extremely thirsty plants, and feed every 2 to 3 weeks with a potassium-rich fertilizer. Patience is required here. It typically takes 9 to 15 months from planting to harvest. You will know it is time when the cluster of green bananas begins to plump up and show the faintest hint of yellow. Cut the entire stalk down and hang it to ripen indoors. Then use the fruit in smoothies, banana bread, or simply eat it fresh. Here is a fascinating fact. Bananas naturally contain a radioactive isotope called potassium-40, and commercial shipments of bananas have genuinely set off radiation alarms at ports and border crossings, simply from the natural mineral content of the fruit itself. And that wraps up our list of 10 fruits that grow easily in containers. No backyard orchard required. Whether you start with something as simple as a strawberry pot on your windowsill, or go all in with a banana tree on your patio, every single one of these can realistically fit into your space this season. Which of these are you planning to grow first? Let me know down in the comments. And if there is a fruit you have already had success with in a container that didn't make this list, tell me about it below. I read every comment. If this video helped you, hit subscribe so you don't miss next week's video, where we'll dig into the exact soil recipes that make container fruit trees actually thrive. I'm growing right alongside you, one pot at a time. Thanks so much for watching, and happy planting!